Welcome back to Frozen Syndication. This is Ed. Today I'm going to be doing a DD on RIGL. So I'm going to be going through technical analysis, and then I'm going to look into the company's profile, their financials, and what are the chances of them getting an offering or having to raise more capital. So I'm going to dive through all that. So this ticker has been recommended on Twitter, and I run a poll every day on Twitter to what are the tickers that we'd like to see. So you can follow me over there just for that. And I do sometimes mention as well my entries for stocks that I mention on here. So first I'm going to be doing 1 month, 1 day, and then 1 hour intervals. Then I'm going to go towards the rest of this video. So first things first, we get to see that the 10 SMA is above the 30 EMA, which is amazing. The stock has kind of ran quite a bit where its usual previous price was. So I'm going to do quickly here is I'm going to look into the last kind of run, and then I'm going to compare it to the recent run. And you get to see that it almost looks exactly similar from here to there in terms of all the indicators. So that's one good news that you're hearing. 10 SMA to 30 EMA actually does look at half the current price, so we need to look into the 1 hour intervals for this, especially since it went to 524. The Williams percent R shows it a little bit more closer to the neutral, but it is sitting at an overbought situation here. The average directional index shows a beginning of a trend, a strong indication of a trend forming, especially since it did have a little bit of a pullback before this massive run. In terms of volume, the day before was 17.29, and if you look into the average volume, I would put it somewhere around in 2 million. It has received 257 million. That's quite a bit, around 120 something times its relative volume. So that's a little bit alarming when you get to see, because you need to maintain that volume for the price to keep jumping. They need to look into the 1 hour interval into this. So quickly going into the 1 hour interval, the MACD for this is broken for the 1 day that you get to see. So the 1 hour interval here, as it's loading, first things first, you get to see the MACD here, and you get to see it very nicely in how it's playing. Although it seems to have had a good setup all throughout the day, of course, with ignoring this massive spike, it still did see growth. Although it did receive a pullback a little bit in the evening here, so that might be a little bit dangerous. The unbalanced volume looks like a heartbeat at this point, so there's a lot of movement in there. There's a lot of dumping and pumping into terms of stock that could be potential here. But it looks like it's actually stabilized, and you get to see that the unbalanced volume has gone towards the lower bottom, so that's a good sign for me. Going in towards current supports, you get to see the current support is probably sitting around 352, and then the one out thereafter is 288.28, then one after 249, and we're going to do Fibonacci retracements to verify these ones. 10 SMA is above the 30 EMA in this one. You get to see that the 10S by the pre-market, the stock price would enter the trading action zone, which is between the 10 SMA and the 30 EMA, and that would make it where reversal could be likely. We get to see here, although, that the average directional index is incredibly high for the 1 hour interval, so that's a little bit alarming, but you get to see that the momentum of the stock is really high. Now, what we're looking here is what the stock is saying is that in the extended market, it is highly likely it's going to get a pullback. So what you need to check later on in the morning, usually the MACD is good at this, is whether it stays positive and pulls back. The average directional index below 50 would be really nice, and you get to see basically the movement in terms of indication. But here's the thing. We've seen that kind of movement where we've seen a pullback again on the day before. You get to see it here where we got a pullback and then it just jumped back up. So we might have this kind of action going on again. Now, quickly here, you get to see that the stock, of course, is way above the moving average here in CN. So that's expected. We get to see a little bit in terms of trend lines. So that's what I'm going to try to do here quickly. There's no current trend line that this would kind of shape in. So what I would like to do here is try to identify any patterns, and then I'm going to do Fibonacci retracements. So one might actually argue that this could be a bullish flag right here happening, but this is a very small interval and happening in extended market. The RSI does not look really good here, as it's been trading for quite a bit on the overbought situation. So it might be dangerous to buy in, but if you're holding this stock, you might want to wait a little bit towards the morning. Because I do still expect that this can be picked up again. Now, in terms of I would find an entry here, that might not be very comfortable for me. especially at a downfall of $1.74. Of course, it's not going to go down to $1.74, at least not very closely, but it still has potential for the longer term, and that's why I'm going to be going through the company presentation here for you to identify what if you hold the stock for a longer term. You get to see the current resistance sitting at 451, one underneath at 41, and the current support, well, which actually just broke recently, 393, and the one thereafter would be 3838, 362, and then sitting somewhere around 350. And that's the current supports and resistances, as you can see. Now, going in a little bit to the company itself, you get to see a bunch of different things. First, institutional ownerships. On the 10th, it seems that there has been a 10% ownership for this company, BlackRock. So let's take a quick look into their portfolio and see how much they have. So they bought around 17 million shares. Their current portfolio is sitting at $2 trillion. Okay, they're massive. So, yeah, that's a big fish. I got very high interest in the stock, so that's quite interesting for me, right? If they bought it, but the thing is, they did not buy it at this price. They bought it on the 10th, so they did buy it around probably 180. So they already doubled their money, over 17 million extra. Going in a little bit towards the pipeline, just remember this name here, Tavalize, all right? And we're going to go there in a second. These two are approved. They do have multiple things going in through phase 2, phase 1, and then one here in phase 3, HC review, Japan phase 3 after gone phase 3 already. So there's good news here. In terms of financial update, they actually released 21.2 million as a net income, compared to last year where they had a net loss of 17.6 million. So that is amazing news. The company is now profitable. You don't get to see that in terms of stocks that are this low, right? So that's amazing news for the stock. So I wouldn't very much worry about offering potential for this reason. So this is on the company's kind of entire company presentation. They have contract revenues of $43 million. They have cash of a short-term investment balance sheet of almost $100 million. They are loaded on cash, so I don't see why they would have an offering per se. Their price is above $1 for quite a bit. So I don't even think a reverse split is coming anytime soon. So you get to see where this is holding. Yeah, and so they basically have 10 million tranche from 60 million term loan credit. So they have as well loan credit lines. And here's the sweet thing. Tavalize and COVID-19, so they basically are testing Tavalize, which is already a product they have as a COVID-19 treatment. So they're not creating COVID-19 vaccine per se. They're not trying to create a special drug for it. They're basically testing what they have on that. So it's not a dangerous thing where you're looking at. That's basically some news that got it in the morning, that got it to run from different sources. It basically says the exact same thing I just said in terms of the COVID-19 treatment. So now what would I do if I don't have an entry or if I had a stock? So I'll be watching it very carefully. And what I want to do essentially here is try to see if it breaks that current support. So if I would be trading this and I bought it under 351, I would wait until it jumps back. And you see here, it just literally jumped back from the start of the video. And it did go from something like 386 to 397. Watch if it holds the 393 mark. If it jumps quite a bit above that, you're safe. If it starts going in a little bit down below, you may need to be a little bit careful and try to consider putting a stop limit somewhere around 328. But I expect the hype to continue wrapping on this one. Thank you very much. What do you think about this stock? Make sure you mention it down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like, and make sure you turn the notifications on, and have a wonderful day.